Going live with Through a Therapist's Eyes. Hello, everybody out there. This is Through a Therapist's Eyes. We are going to be talking about one of the pieces of what I call the trifecta tonight, love and logic with your children, with parenting. That's going to be the topic. So if you're catching us with the YouTube Live for the first time on this platform, we jump on about 6:15 every day to give you a time to interact with us and follow along with us on the show. We love interacting and getting feedback live as we're recording the show. Here in a couple of minutes, we'll sit the mics up live to get what you hear on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those kind of places. As they say, wherever you get your podcasts. So we do not have Victoria today. She has got childcare issues, and we have the big 300 episode next week, actually, John.
Yay.
That is next week. Man.
Outstanding.
And we do have pretty much confirmation, I guess, Neil. Is that confirmation of a guest, a surprise guest coming in?
Well, so far it's confirmed, but you never know. That guest is
So-
busy.
So far, it is confirmed, yes. So, but that's going to be fun, man. 300 episode. This is episode 299 on February the 12th, if I am correct. Or did I miss a day? This is 13th. It is the 13th. I missed
Yes,
a day.
tomorrow's Valentine's
Thankfully, this is
Day.
not Friday the 13th. This is
Yes.
not Friday the 13th.
Right.
It's Thursday the 13th. And you're right. Happy Valentine's Day out there for everybody. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Mr. John Pope hanging out with us.
It's a pleasure being here with you.
Yep.
Outstanding.
You feeling good? You feeling okay?
You asked me if I felt good. I don't feel. I don't feel my best.
We are all in the same boat, man. Recover, going in. I don't know. There's been a lot of sickness going around.
That's right.
Been a lot of different stuff.
I'm not chewing or anything like that or
That's good.
coughing, so that's
The
good.
chewing sucks.
Yeah.
I know that well. Coughing is what I've been doing, man. I got those cough,
Ooh,
cough pains.
does that hurt?
Yes.
Yes.
Cough pains.
Have you tried
the worst.
Mucinex or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I've been dosing up. Well, I haven't been dosed for a few days. Like, I'm good now.
Are we allowed to say a brand name?
Yeah, we can say whatever we
Okay.
want.
All right.
We can say whatever we want. We can say the brand name sucks, too. if we want.
Okay. No, I think it's a good. It's good. I think it's Guanva.
I do like Mucinex,
yeah.
but I use Sudafed.
Okay.
I was banging with ibuprofen and Sudafed last week. They were my
Can't
friends.
use ibuprofen.
No?
No, because it caused bleeding, and I'm on.
Oh, I can't. I thought you said nobody can't. Okay.
Oh
you
no,
can't.
I can't.
Gotcha.
Right, because I've got other issues, so I can't take I'm taking a blood thinner.
Oh.
Should I share that with the audience?
John, this is a podcast, brother. You
Yeah.
can share whatever the hell you want to.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's awesome about podcasting.
Yeah.
There's no filters if you don't want them to be. If you get nasty and mean, we have to mark it
No.
explicit.
That's right. I won't.
But we try to keep this family friendly.
That's right.
so.
Well, Victoria's the one that gets explicit, so
She does get a little
Yes.
explicit. We're gonna miss her this week. We get an easier family friendly show, which is good because we're talking about parenting, right? All right, we're getting ready close. Ready to rock? All right. Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am your host, Chris Gazdick. This is Mr. John Pope hanging out with
it
us
is
today.
wonderful being with you all today.
All right, we are talking about love and logic today, which is one of the what I call trifectas. What are we doing Vulcan for?
It's Vulcan. Yeah, logic. It's not logical.
This
It's
is
not
logic.
logic. Yes.
This is the logic part of
love and logic. Yeah.
Got you. All right, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights normally from a panel of therapists. Victoria has a little bit of child care issue today, so she is not able to be with us. You got two of us. But knowing this is not the delivery of therapy services in any way, this is February the 13th.
Yes. Not Friday the 13th.
Not Friday the 13th. Thursday the 13th, with the day before
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there.
And it was named after Saint Valen.
Saint Valen?
Valens or Valen.
Who is Saint Valens?
He was Valentine. He's the Valentine, and he was a saint early Rome or ancient Rome. Rather,
Okay.
in the Roman Empire, and he actually was the person that was supposed to. He is the patron saint of lovers.
Okay.
Okay, and so
The patron saint of lovers.
that's right, because he would help people that.
Should I ask what caused this to be decreed upon him, or we'll leave it
No,
alone?
no, no. No, I think
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
wasn't
Neil.
bad. It wasn't bad.
Couldn't resist.
But he got in trouble.
He did get in trouble.
Yeah.
Shocker.
So, yeah.
With such a topic. So hit the subscribe button. In the South, they say mash the subscribe button. I'm going to say click the bell for notifications on Facebook and videos that you get.
Give us a 5-star rating.
Tell them why it can't be 4-star, John.
Well, because we get to go with a bullet to the top if we are a 5-star rating.
Yes.
And so we get seen by more, and
It really does help us out.
we
That's our
get
part.
the
We do
algorithms take us
help
up
us with the
higher and higher.
algorithms. Listen, we do free content for you, and we do ask that you help us out with, the likes, the reviews on Apple Podcasts are really important, and all that kind of stuff. Contact at throughatherapisteyes.com is where you contact us. And this is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together. Reed Ferguson is our entry music that you heard. I haven't given him a shout out for a little while. So on the eve of the 300th episode that is
Yay.
coming up next week.
Fantastic.
This is episode 299, John.
299.
That's episode
99
300.
Luftballons. 99 Luftballons.
I know that balloon. I know that. I know that song.
By Nina.
But reedferguson.com is where you find him. He will come and play for you. REIDT Ferguson, FERGUSON.com. We appreciate him creating the intro music for a show where this is the human emotional experience, which we endeavor to figure this out together.
And we don't. Why did you say about not giving advice or for therapy?
This is not therapy services of any kind. Victoria would have reminded me, but she didn't have to because I already said it, John.
Oh, okay. I said it again, didn't I?
You said it again.
Well, there you go. There's my brain.
Where we're supposed to repeat is that I have a book out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You're supposed to do it 7 times.
7 times.
That's
I'm not
right.
going to do that every show, though.
That's about marriage.
There is a book about marriage. There is a book about self. I got 2 books out. Check them out through a therapist's eyes. Amazon has those, easiest to get. But right now, should be in a bookstore still, maybe near you.
That's right.
Live in the brick and mortar bookstores. I still haven't found my book in the bookstores. I haven't looked. Is that bad author on my part? That's bad authorism.
No, I don't think it's a bad author.
I'm just not running out looking for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. It's just. It's okay.
I've heard of some authors that will go and they'll
Yeah.
put their book out and then they'll put someone else's out behind them and
do stuff in the
to
bookstore
hide
that
it,
way.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I don't have. It's okay. Episode 299. Have you remembered that I talk about the trifecta? Do you remember what that is?
Trifecta. Love and logic is one of them.
It's the 3 things that I've come across, John, that I feel like are really profoundly important in the work that I do with people. I'm sure you have these things that you kind of lean on, the foundation points that you kind of feel like really hit the spot, that really get the pattern or mark the model. Do you have like your top favorites or your pieces that are, the best in your mind?
And a hero's journey.
The hero's journey?
Right. So,
Okay.
of course, I work with a lot of men, and women have theirs as well, but that's part of it. Part of this is where people are trying to find meaning in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's when they're at a crossroads or they've had some marital issues
Right.
and parenting issues as well, or employment. So that's William Campbell.
Okay. William Campbell did the hero's journey. I mean, I've heard of it before. Is that a therapy model really,
Joseph
per se
Campbell?
that you
Yeah,
go with, or
anyway.
what is that? How does that relate to therapy? I'm curious, actually.
Well, actually, it's I kind of get this into a person dealing with depression or anxiety and trying to have a why in their lives,
Right.
especially after they've had something that would take them down quite a bit. where they've experienced failure, maybe a loss of job. So yeah, it has something to do with therapy.
Okay. But it's not really a therapy model.
No,
Exactly.
no.
It's just obviously in work with people.
You would say
You
it
know.
might be with Erickson's developmental stages, psychosocial developmental stations.
Okay.
So people in midlife. It's been a good paradigm for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have therapy pieces that you've relied upon besides A Hero's Journey then?
Oh, well, usual CBT,
CBT, just different models and stuff.
REBT. Yeah, I try to be essentially at a core existential, but I also integrate a person-centered CBT, REBT, to be able to help them with developing their concept of meaning.
Okay.
So I like to go deep
Into things.
Yeah, because it's my philosophy, it's my philosophy that you can do things that can change behaviors, but unless you change the way a person thinks, then the behavior changes. People will tend to go back to where they were before. That's just been my experience.
Well, I guess the reason why I'm asking is because I've come across these three things. I call it the trifecta because it happened to be three things that I just really felt like nailed, the particular issue with this issue that it addresses. And this is one of them, the love and logic strategies for parenting. And I know there's other ones out there, and I feel like there's some real similarities with some other models that are out there, but this is just the first one that I came across. And when I found this in conference, it totally changed the way that I view working with kids.
What's your other two?
The other two are one, Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. I really feel like that nails communication issues with couples, particularly.
I agree with you on that.
Right?
I really do, because I that seems to be a lot of issues with some of my clients.
Yes.
It's the financial aspects
100%.
and a lack of communication.
There is none.
Yeah.
Because that issue is just so locked down that you don't really have a platform very easily between the two spouses to talk about the issue. And so Dave opens up the venue in between that space between two spouses.
So this
to be
is
able to have
practical, okay?
Huh?
It's very practical,
Right. Yep.
And love and logic's also. So that's a cornerstone.
I
What's the
haven't-
third stool?
And the third one I'll get to in a moment then. I haven't been able to do my thinking. I've really for a long time wanted to find what are the themes and the parallels that are really similar between these three. Because the other one is Gottman's EFT stuff.
Right.
No surprise there, right?
No,
So
none.
we've talked about EFT a lot on the show. And so there's not a lot, if you're catching this for, one of the first times that you've heard us talking, there's not a lot of content we redo. But
Yeah.
these ones I want to touch on. And so building up to the 300th episode, Moral Courage is the other one that we did last week that we also redo. That's about the only four things that we redo.
One of the things that I've noticed with this is that what you were saying with love and logic is a parenting is a relationship
100%.
that's there, and then also financial again
Financial Peace University,
relationship,
relational.
and the other one, of
course, EFT.
Yeah, EFT is
Really relational.
yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a relational aspect to these things. That's the focus is on the relationship
Yeah, it's
building.
a trinity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unholy trinity, a holy trinity.
Definitely not, hopefully, an unholy trinity.
Yeah.
The three questions I would like for you to ponder this week as we talk about love and logic is how do you currently handle discipline and boundaries with your child? How do you currently do this? And then what kind of struggle do you have with either being too controlling or too lenient as a parent? Okay. And I like that continuum question. I think about continuums. Nobody's in the exact right spot and the healthy spot in the middle. So are you too lenient or are you too controlling or too heavy? You should be able to figure out which side of the continuum you are, I would think, right? because no
Right.
one's exactly happy in the middle. And then lastly, how do you shift your parenting approach to encourage more responsibility and problem solving in your child? Because that's kind of the goal, right? That's
So
a
how
big
do you
goal in Love and
raise
Logic.
them? How do you raise them to be adults?
That's the goal. That's
Yeah.
the whole sort of overview when you talk about a parent-child relationship, right? Before we get into Love and Logic, let's dial into those three questions a little bit because I think they raise interesting points if you think about each one of them. So the first one, how do you think people currently handle discipline and boundaries, kind of with their child? What do you find when you've worked with people over the years when they're talking about, I'm a great parent, here's what I do, or I struggle with the parenting thing, here's what I struggle. Like, what do you think people's primary idea, if you watered it down, about their parenting strategies typically? I should say this was what I'm thinking about is the way I parented, and I think it's pretty common until I came across this stuff,
Yeah.
and it totally changed the way I view it.
How did you do it before?
That's what I don't want to say yet.
Okay.
What do you find in clients that
I find that either they are absolutely aloof and have no clue,
Okay.
or the other is that they're too enmeshed in with their kids, and
That's a word.
Yeah, the helicopter-ish kind of things going.
Yeah.
And so, are they free range, or are they constrained in controlled, overly controlled?
Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of times people,
Or are they your friends?
to dial into a way that I'm thinking about it, and I'm curious what you'll come up with. People will say, "Well, yeah, I do corporal punishment. That's parenting. That's the way you
Okay,
control
that's
and
never
manage
been an option.
teaching."
Yeah.
Okay, that if it's not that, then what? I'll jump to it. I hear people talking about privilege loss, John.
Uh-huh.
Like that's essentially the level of where people get to
Okay.
when they think about what do I do with my kids.
They're going to lose a privilege.
They're going to lose something.
Uh-huh.
The level that we
So it's
typically
taken
think about,
away.
taking something away, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be clear about that. Taking something away or getting into punishment, grounding your kid, essentially relates in some way to privilege loss.
All right. There you go. All right. I see that.
See
I
that?
see that with my adults.
Yes.
That have been, that's the way they were raised. And so
Yes.
they lose something. And so they'll immediately go to, this is a weakness. This is my weakness.
Yeah.
Because they got it from their parents.
Yeah, it's a tough love concept. We understand what tough love is. And we don't want to punish our kids, but when we have to teach them a lesson, when we have to engage in discipline, people will engage primarily. They don't go much beyond thinking about how do I ground my kid? What kind of privilege loss do they lose?
Yeah.
Beyond
Take
that, there's
away-
not much that people think about.
Take away their iPhone, their
Screens.
screen,
All
screen
screens.
times. Yeah.
My neighbor would go nuclear. All of the screens are gone. You got in trouble. Okay. Is there anything beyond privilege loss in a parent-child relationship that we need to be focusing
Yeah, I
on?
think so.
Hint, hint, hint.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think people tend to get beyond that. Does that sound crazy?
No, it doesn't sound crazy.
They're either, as you were saying, aloof and we're not doing privilege loss a whole lot, or we're heavy-handed and we do a lot of privilege loss, or corporal punishment again.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be like, well, spanking your child is, that's what important part of discipline is. But I'm going to submit to you that there is so much more. You listening to the show today, there's so much more that I want you to be thinking about when you're talking about or thinking about the relationship, as John said earlier, with your child or grandchild, by the way. Because grandparents are a big part of parenting the child. Question mark? What says you?
No, definitely. I think a grandparent should have something to do that, but also given in mind that it's the parent.
Yeah, you don't want to usurp the parent. But
No, you want to support the parent, but you also want to be able to encourage the child. And let's say parent stumbles or something like that. the grandparent might be able to help both the parent and the child.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. There's just a lot there, and yeah. So let's get into it. What are the other things that we want people to be thinking about when we're talking about the whole relationship with the child, the parent-child relationship? So, what is love and logic? Have you come across this much, John? Do you know much about love and logic? I think we've talked about it on the show before, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think we did. It's not something that I know that it's been around for 50 years.
Well,
and,
maybe 20, 15.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's that old.
1977, I thought.
Neil, when did love and logic come up, if you can Google that? I think it's definitely a lot newer than that, the model. Well, Neil maybe hopefully help us out with that.
I think I read something like that a while back.
I would be very surprised.
I could be wrong.
I would be very surprised.
Of course I could be wrong.
Did you hear me, Neil? Yep, he's
Yeah.
looking it up. This is a philosophy. This is a whole sort of, understanding or big picture thinking. This is not like just a strategy list or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, the way that you imagine or think about having a relationship. As you said, I love that theme in what I call, the trifecta pieces. There are pieces about this that are wrapped around what relationship characteristics you're fostering. And so they really look at thinking about some core principles, that characterize and explain, what pieces of this philosophy are. But here's the line of logic. I like to think about this logic line. You did the Vulcan on the YouTube Live when we came on. So this is a logical process.
Yeah.
And here's the logic that goes behind it. I feel like this is brilliant. Okay? Real big overview and summary of love and logic is, little Johnny, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, if you pause right there, people usually struggle with that concept. How are you going to tell a kid you can do anything that they want to do?
Right.
Parents balk at this. They're like, well, I can't tell my kid that. But listen to the rest of the logic phrase. Little Johnny, you can do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else.
Okay, so it's...
Right? So there's a lot of things a kid can do that causes
It's almost
problems.
a libertarian kind of thing here, as long as it doesn't impose on other people.
Okay, interesting thought. Never thought of that before. Little Johnny, you can do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. Oh, I see that there's a problem here that it's causing your behavior, your decision. You better, you need to fix the problem. Okay. Little Johnny's not going to see a problem in
So it's
inevitably.
consequences. It's consequences. And so it helps the child think ahead and to think about how this would end.
Right.
How does that keep a child, let's say a child who's anxious, how does it keep the child from becoming overly anxious?
Yep. The kid has to learn how to manage his crap. So, little Johnny, you can do anything that you want to do.
I want my mom to take care.
Well, that's a lot of times what ends up happening. But listen to the rest of the logic.
Yeah.
Little Johnny, you can do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. I see that it's caused a problem, and the kids are going to disagree. My kids literally told me, "Oh, Dad, that doesn't cause a problem." I'm like, okay, well, don't worry about it then. No problem. I'll take care of the problem. And then you have to come around in the background after the case, not immediately in a power struggle, because enemy number one to parenting, I've said thousands of times, is a power struggle.
And the parent will lose.
And the parent will lose I love that. You're right. I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will not win power struggles very easily, if at all. And if you do, you're pounding a kid into submission. So then on the back end, you come in and around and you create these consequences and such that basically teaches the kid, what they need to learn because of their bad decisions that caused problems. That's essentially the love and logic. Johnny, you can do anything you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. I see that it's caused a problem. You need to fix the problem. I see that you haven't fixed the problem. No problem. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of the problem. Then the parent comes in and creates
Let me
consequence.
let me get a thought here. Let's say you got a dog that likes to dig and get out of the yard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's little Johnny's dog.
All right.
All right, and you say, okay, this will be the consequence. I'm going to help you out this time, the first time, okay? But now we see that there's a problem, and so we get the dog back from the pound or whatever. All right, little Johnny lets the dog out again.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't really do a good job with getting the fence and fixing the fence.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of consequence. What would that be? The little Johnny has to work to mow the yards to get the dog out of the...
Yeah.
Okay, got
Right.
it.
Perfect. That's because a lot of times it's natural consequences.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of pain that you have to sit back and watch your kid go through.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times parents want to step in and save the day.
Mm-hmm.
When they say, literally, Johnny, don't worry about it. I'll take care of the problem. They're not meaning
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a problem for you, little Johnny. They're meaning I'm going to fix the problem
Mm-hmm.
and there's not going to be a problem. And this is where it ends for
Mm-hmm.
you. And that's a problem
Mm-hmm.
in parenting because you're not teaching your kid anything. They're not
Mm-hmm.
learning through poor decisions and natural consequences or consequences that you create in the background that teach life lessons. The kid learns they can decide whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter because mommy and daddy are going to take care
Right.
of whatever problems come up, and I don't even see the problems. Like that's where you run into problems with snowplow parenting or helicopter parenting. There's different
What's
cute memes.
snowplow?
Where you
Push everything
you
aside.
pave the way for the kids so there's no struggle.
Uh-huh. Okay.
You know, they don't have to fight through an interview
Uh-huh.
or the awkwardness of having a conversation for the job. You just talk to your neighbor and they give the kid a job. It's snow, you're
So,
just paving
yeah.
the way, right? They don't have to work for it. They don't have to fight for it. They don't have to struggle.
Right.
What parent wants to watch their kid struggle?
Yeah.
Neil, what do we got? When did this thing start up?
77.
You're right, John. Dang. 1977?
No, 1877. Yeah, yeah,
1977.
1977. It's on the footer of the website.
I'm
so.
being mocked. Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay, it's been around a long time, John. I guess I didn't find it forever.
No, well, I didn't know about it until you brought it up.
Okay. Wow.
No, I just looked that stuff up.
That's awesome. Okay. I missed that, honestly. I'm shocked. I did
I was
not.
wondering where it was when I was raising my kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that I didn't catch this until my kids were like 14 years old, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It would have been a bit of a game changer, right? Yeah. I guess I was born in 73, so you must have been raising kids around the 70s. Is that right?
No, 80s.
In the 80s? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I had our first kids when we were 83, 85, and 88.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm older than your kids.
You
Wow.
could be my dad.
Not a shocker. We know that. We know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so if we look at these principles and we look at this philosophy and the big picture approach, I mean, what we're really, really trying to do is foster resiliency, teaching kids how to make decisions, helping them struggle through with compassion their thought process on how to engage the world. You're looking at shared control.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at shared thinking. So you're working with their thinking process and maybe sometimes giving them ideas or suggestions.
Okay. You're treating them like they're not its. They are subjects. They are persons.
Okay, not subjects. I think that would take people in a different direction.
No,
They're-
I'm talking about Martin Buber and I and thou.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now that
What do you mean? Because I'm sure you mean correct. But
I mean that they're somebody of equal or even above. They're incalculably important.
how many parents like to think that they actually share control
Very few.
with their kid? Share.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
right?
no, I can do anything I want to with this. It's my child. You can't tell me what to do with my child.
Very big defensiveness there, right?
Right.
And but what you're doing
But
is you're taking.
I own my child. Is that's that?
There's a mentality.
kind of a 18th century viewpoint.
And
of the
honestly,
kids.
when you take that, you're taking control away from the child
Right.
and any autonomy to make decisions.
They're taking away their personhood.
So when they become 18 and you no longer have them as your minor child, air quotes there, what are they supposed to do? They're not used to making decisions, right? That's so
Right.
debilitating. If you look at like, no, I'm in control of my child. I don't share any control. So empathy first, and that logical, consequential way of thinking through that line of logic, like I said. You know how brilliant it is, how wonderful it is when your kid like starts pondering things, starts wondering about.
Pinky, are you
outcomes.
pondering what I'm pondering?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You know, which that whole thing, little Johnny, I see that there's a problem here by doing what you're doing. And of course, the kid's going to be like, no, Dad, there's no problem. And you say, okay, well, no problem. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of the problem. And bam, you do nothing for a day. What do you think that kid is thinking? They're thinking about, oh, God, what's going to happen? They have anxiety about this. They start thinking, what should I have done? Oh, God, what's coming?
Think of consequence.
They think of consequential interaction, and they're learning. And then they know that the hammer's coming somewhere because they've seen this happen multiple times. This is easy when you start out the earlier in the relationship with a kid that you start out. If you start out in teenage land like I did, it's going to be kind of
all
tough.
bets are off. Right?
It's tough. It's a lot tougher to figure out. These are easier things to think about when the little kiddo is young. Like let's think of some examples if you follow me. Like what are some examples, John? Particularly easy when it's kids, toddlers, the elementary school. How can we use love and logic to kind of give them choices and help them make decisions and understand their behaviors?
Okay, well, a question is that, let me give you an example. You can't bring knives to school.
Yep.
And the little second grader takes a knife to school. And
My
gets
kid
some-
actually did this.
Yeah.
How did you know this? Are you in my head? Are you in my world?
No, it's my kid did that too.
Yeah.
It's the one who let the dogs out.
Okay. Who let the dog?
But he.
You know that song, right, John?
Yeah, that's right. That's from by the Baja Boys. Who let the dogs out?
Is it Baja? Okay, I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Is that right? All right.
The Bobbit? The Baja Men. Gotcha.
Okay. So, well, I've been around.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
my son got in trouble and and the school wanted to expel him. It was a butter knife. But
A butter knife?
A butter knife.
And they wanted to expel him for a butter knife in the
Right.
80s?
90s.
In the 90s?
90s, yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
For real?
About 95. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Jeez.
I was wrong. I think it was wrong of the school.
Oh, it's
but-
terrible.
But
It's terrible.
but that was part of the thing, and so we really did get angry with the school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how would I parent him? What would be a good parenting thing?
Punish him. Take his privilege away, right? Corporal punishment. Give him a spanking. We have got to get away from exclusively thinking in those terms.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
So what
So
do we
we-
do? Let's play with this. How do you teach him life lessons about bringing a butter knife to school being bad?
He had to. What we did, if I recall, is that he went and he went to the principal and to his teacher, and he explained why he shouldn't have done it, and that was basically it.
He had to have a conversation.
He had to have a conversation,
He needed to follow through.
and he was very anxious and very scared.
Right.
Yeah,
Did you have compassion for him?
sure.
It's hard.
I felt horrible.
Right.
So
Did you let him stand into the fire?
you mean take the consequences? I think he might
Deal
have-
with the awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Right? That's
And-
the fire.
Well, I think he had to also have a study hall or something like that
Mhm.
for a couple of days. But he was a good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I'm saying is you could have saved him and talked with the teacher yourself. You could have smoothed it over with the school or advocated for him to be able to stay instead of having a punishment. You could have done, there's a lot of choices that you
Yeah.
had in all of that
Yeah,
scenario.
he didn't
right?
get expelled or anything or suspended. But
Okay,
it was,
good.
But I thought they overreacted personally. But,
Of course, I think so too,
yeah.
for sure. But the kid has to deal with it.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's got to have
you're
some
right.
skin in the game. Is the whole point, right? Like,
Right.
that is the way the world works. We're not okay with knives in schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, because this happened to me with my parents,
Okay.
and I
Get
used
scared,
to get,
Neil.
I got bullied when I was
Yeah.
in the 7th grade, 8th grade,
Right.
and back in those days, nobody stood up for you or anything like that.
Right.
My parents never went to the teachers or to the principal, and I had to face my bullies.
Right.
That sucked.
That sucked.
Yeah. But I'm glad that they didn't.
Okay.
So,
Why are you glad they didn't?
well, I think it was because I was able to reason with the bullies and out-talk them, and
Did you have the John Pope brilliant intellect at that point already?
not quite.
Not quite
But I was
yet?
getting there.
Okay.
I
It
was,
was
I was
coming
getting
along?
there. Yeah. I was getting there.
Yeah.
But I think that helped me. So,
Probably lit a fire under you. You developed some stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and I said I don't want to be in their classes. So that was the other thing. I didn't hide from them or anything like that. And I stood up.
Yeah. Okay.
So today, what would happen is if a person was bullied and fought back, they'd get expelled. And so that's not love and logic, is it?
So what's the question then? I mean, is that love and logic? What would this philosophy? How do you deal with that kind of a thing? Huh?
I don't think schools, they have a zero tolerance. Would love and logic allow for kids to get in fights?
You know, I think the answer is yes.
Mhm.
I do. I think the answer is straight up yes. As a matter of fact, at the conference that I was at, one of the scenarios that we really spent time processing is what do you do when, the siblings are in battle?
Mhm.
I mean, the parent can come in and, create judgment as, and just iron-handed lay down the law, who's right and who's wrong, who are you siding with, what's the judgment, you go to your corner, and you're both punished, or any number of things that the parent can do. But I distinctly remember, which when I took the training, the son of the creators of this whole philosophy, was giving the seminar that whole day. It was a day-long seminar, and I was locked on the whole day, by the way. And that doesn't happen in trainings very often for me. I hate to say that, especially in the second half of my career. But they said, let the kids fight, basically. They have to.
Good.
They have to work it out.
Yes.
You cannot work out the
Exactly.
problems for them all the time.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I think it was the best thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my brother and I would go at it.
Oh, my brother and I
so,
will. And it sucked for me, John,
Uh-huh.
because I was the smaller of the two.
Yeah.
He was 3.5 years older than me. So how many fights with
Oh,
my
my
brother do
brother
you
was
think I
only
won?
18 months, and so I was bigger than he was.
See, I
and
was
so-
not. My brother dominated me, and I had a hard time trying to figure out how do I stand up for myself. Still trying to figure that out with that guy. No, I'm kidding. I've learned a lot, but you only learn when you're forced to deal with those situations. Now, we do need a word about safety. I mean, there needs to be a level of safety that we're aware of. But the level of safety that I think I would cite as a danger to self or others, if you're infringing upon the level of safety where you need intervention, the kid needs to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
It's level of inpatient commitment. And we have that when somebody's not able to be safe with themselves or others in the
Yes.
mental health field, right?
Right.
And kids do go to hospitals. But if we're not talking about that, then we're talking about the need to kind of problem solve through your argument. What's your fight? What's the problem? Figure it out, guys. And so I think parents get stuck into fear. There's a big word.
Yeah.
They get
They're
sucked into
afraid
fear.
they're going to. So they're parents that would either be like dictators,
Yep.
or they would be so fearful that they think their kids are going to break,
Yeah.
and their kids aren't going to break.
They don't
No.
usually break.
Yeah.
This happens a lot of times in tantrums, you know, even with like a clinical situation like separation anxiety. That's a diagnosis, you know. So listening along, you know, separation anxiety is when kids have clinical level anxiety and they're routinely getting nauseous going to school, or separation from a primary figure at the daycare. They freak out. But the thing that the parent doesn't realize is you leave 5 minutes later, the kid's fine. They work out their internal feelings, and they're usually fine.
Okay. Homesickness.
Right?
I got horribly homesick.
Yeah.
And I could not understand why my mom and dad would not pick me up
Yeah.
from my grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love and logic would say, you know,
Yeah.
work it out.
Work it out.
Work it out. Deal with this.
So I wrote letters.
You wrote letters?
Yeah, I wrote letters.
And that helped you with your homesickness at the grandparents?
Yeah, sure did. Because it was a farm in Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm sure my father and mother-in-law aren't going to be listening to this. Hopefully they do. I will reconcile and apologize. Like, I actually screwed this up. Although the kid was pretty young. I think it was 50-50, honestly, when I worked with all my friends. Neil will come to you in a second. He grabs the mic. Whenever he does, that's good. The thing is I think my kid was like 5, and we traveled all the way to where we live in Charlotte area here to Tampa, Florida, and the idea suddenly became, oh, the kids are going to stay a whole extra week at their grandparents, which means it's 5 or something like that. It was kind of like edgy. Like, do you leave your kid
For that long?
that little, that long for the first time? It was like, then one of them was going to stay and not both of them, and both of them were going to stay, and there was this big hubbub, and finally I just said, like, look, this is crazy. So we didn't have them stay, and it caused a problem. Like, my father-in-law was not happy with me.
All right.
Which I'm sorry, Gerald, I probably screwed that up. Probably should have had them stay, but it was brand new for us parents as well as the kid. So that I may have screwed that up.
I don't know why. I must have had just marvelous parents in terms of uncles and aunts, because there was one time I got really homesick.
Yeah.
Because that was a theme for me.
Was it? That was
yeah. Yeah. And I was with my Aunt Jean and Uncle, anyway, my Aunt Jean and brothers and not brothers, cousins, and I got really homesick. Uncle Fred, right? And they put me on a bus, and I was like 9 years old, went from La Follette, Tennessee by myself to Harlan, Kentucky. Of course,
That's a big
that was
trip.
a long trip. And I learned my lesson.
Did you? Okay.
So nobody even picked me up from the bus station in Harlan, and I had to walk all the way. That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Terrifying.
But that was in the 60s.
Terrifying,
okay? It was
yeah.
like 67 or something like that.
See, again, fear. People are fearful. Like, can you do that nowadays? Parents live in fear. Neil, what you thinking, man?
I was going to make a joke about why your parents didn't come pick you up. If you get rid of your kids, you leave them gone. You just enjoy the time without them, right? You just do that. But I think it goes back to, you get to the, I do think that, like, our parents or grandparents, they just didn't really worry. You know, you threw the kids out there and you knew that they'd come back, right?
Right.
But in the environment today, there's so much fear mongering going on. The idea of having a 9-year-old ride a bus for 6 hours and then walk home from the bus station, like,
it was 6 hours.
Think about, like, in today's society, what the news places would talk about. This one kid did this. Nothing happens to you, but what could have happened? There could have been a serial killer or a kidnapper or a rapist, or the bus could have exploded. Like, there's all this fear mongering, right?
Yeah.
And so because of all the fear mongering, parents are at a point now where they feel they have to be that snowplow helicopter parent, right?
Otherwise, you're a bad parent, I guess. Yeah.
Right. You have the free range parents. There are some states where the parents will let their kid walk to the park, play at the park, and then come back, and then they got arrested because they didn't supervise their kid.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents and grandparents would have been arrested, put in jail for the rest of their lives. But that was, of course, that was 60 years ago. So,
Well, you know what's interesting? I was just listening to you, Neil. It's a really interesting point in the contemporary parenting world that we live in, right? Because, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's such judgment is one big word about parenting. Like, parents get judged tremendously. And that's so unfortunate. And the other piece that I think is loud that you're speaking more to, Neil, is that parents are parenting out of fear. And I think you got to be careful when those things come together, where you're fearfully parenting your child for fear of being judged. That's a bad combination. It's impossible, right? Yeah, like I can't leave my kid alone in the neighborhood at, whatever time of day at night or yeah.
yeah. Our rule was when the street lamps come on, then you need to be home.
Oh yeah.
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 And you could hear it, and you could wait for it to click on.
Yes.
Yeah.
The buzz of the light
Buzz,
comes on and everyone scurries home or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we all have similar stories. I mean, yeah, we would out in the morning and wouldn't come home until, it was time to eat. And, poor Ray George, our neighbor, he had his mom had a dinner bell. Ding, ding, ding. It was a big cowbell. Ding, 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 ding. It was like we knew Ray had to go home, but it was all day long. And they didn't know where we were. We were somewhere around the house within a mile or two, really. And we had a wonderful place that I grew up. It was around Ogleby Park in Wheeling, if anybody listening knows where that's at. I mean, we had a park in our backyard. We had forts up there. I mean, we made fires, John.
Yeah. We made fires.
More than once, almost may have caught a pine tree on fire.
Yeah.
Not proud of some of those things, but we managed it.
But you learn.
And we learned.
Yeah. You experience life, and you don't experience it vicariously or looking down at a screen.
Yeah. And you know what? We had some injuries too. I mean, there is bad things that happen. Oh my God. This is a terrible story, but I'm going to tell it. As I said, we had this fort and we had this area up there. It was actually along a golf course, and then there was a road, and then there was our neighborhood, right? So we were that close to everything. And so we took one day, John, the acrobatic pulley system on a swing set,
Yeah.
the triangle thing.
Yeah.
Well, we had the triangle thing tied to a pulley and with a wheel on it, a little single wheel pulley. And we had the pulley tied up onto a taunt rope that was tied at a very high pine tree.
Right.
And then secondly tied to a very low landing tree.
I'd see where that's
basically.
going.
Yeah. It was bad. So we're going down the system, and one after the other, we're climbing the tree and going down the pulley. It was a blast. So I'm up, and I'm climbing to this high point in the tree, and I'm next in line to take my turn. And that same kid, actually, Ray, had the thing. And do you remember the song Van Halen? Panama?
Panama. Yes.
Yeah. He loved Van Halen.
Right.
And he was singing Panama. And I'm telling you what.
Aren't they going around in the video too?
Well, we didn't have video back then, John. There was no cell phones. And so right when he cleared...
No, I'm talking about the music video.
You will
Panama.
probably.
Okay.
But when he cleared the tree, the pulley broke.
Oh, no.
Bam, he dropped. Straight sheer drop.
Oh, my goodness.
It was horrifying. Scary as hell. Remember I said I was the next person up. And so I scurried down, and we had a group of the kids, and the group ran, and they left me alone with Ray to hold him. I mean, I wanted to throw up. I mean, it was a really, really bad day, and he got very, very bad injured. So he broke his femur, he broke 2 wrists, some ribs. Yeah, it was bad. He would have been better off if he had fallen in the tree. Later found or understood.
So he must have fallen 20 feet or something?
Probably every bit of.
Oh my goodness.
Every bit of.
Yeah.
So there are really bad consequences. Ray's fine, by the way, today. His life is good. He's fine. He's no problem. He healed. He recovered. We all signed his cast. We came and see him every day at his house. He was out of school for a little while. I mean, it was bad, but can you let your kids be in the world with risk?
Right.
On the eve of that story, what do you think people are saying? Listen to this, John. In the answer to my question, can you handle your child being in the world with the very real world risks that are out there?
Can you not afford to do that so that your kids will be able to live in the world that can be tough and rough and cruel?
So you're reframing my question.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Can you not risk allowing your kids to fail or to be hurt so that they can grow up to make good and adult decisions when they get older? And
it's really important,
yeah.
the topic that we're on right now.
I think the important part, because we're dealing with this with our youngest right now, trying to get his license. He is not a naturally skilled driver.
Oh boy.
The way that he does stuff.
Driver, he's talking about driving, y'all.
And the interesting thing about it is, no matter how much it scares a parent dealing with their kid driving, because there's always that nerve-wracking, right?
You're like this.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, just like you said, John, I think the biggest key that you do is you have to let your kids experience the things while you're there to kind of you're the way that my wife and I see it is you want them to experience things in their life while they have you as a safety net. If they don't experience it and you're there to kind of help them through it, like the safety net, what's going to happen when you're not there as a safety net and they try that triple flip as a trapeze and then next they hit the ground, right? That's the thing. So the goal is that you have to let your kids do what they do while you're there, and then they learn that they can do it themselves. So it's
controlled risk.
It becomes a controlled risk, but you're not controlling everything. But when there is a situation, you're there for them. You're there to help them. When they're driving, they're I really want one of those student driver cars where you can use the brake.
Give me the brake pedal.
Oh, it was But so that's a perfect example. I have no control over what Luke does when he drives.
You really don't have control. Can you let go of that control with your kiddo?
But can you be like, hey, you need to stop faster? Hey, watch this turn. Hey, watch it. And you're helping them observe and learn what's going on. But once again, I have no control over what Luke does. So you have to give them that freedom. And there will be consequences if they don't do it, right? Because you can't stop them. But that's the important part, that you have to be there for your kid through the situation, that you give them the opportunity to struggle through it, work through it. If you do trapeze air things, they have to go through, they flip, they miss the catch, and they land in the net. Yeah. They don't die, but now they can try it again. Yeah. They don't die, but then eventually it gets to the point where, all right, the net's gone. Use what you've learned, and that's very important.
Now, do you all have... You don't have girls.
I don't. I have two boys.
We have all boys.
I had one boy, two girls.
Oh, wow.
And the boy was very different than the girls.
I bet.
Well, my two boys are different too.
Oh, absolutely. Both my boys are very different.
Yeah. My son would do crazy things like jump in the middle of the winter into Lake Olathe, which is in Kansas, in the middle of winter, and they jumped onto the ice, and broke it and went into it.
Yeah,
that was
scary.
That kind of craziness, and yet he was afraid to drive, and I had a clutch, and we had to go. He had a year and a half to learn how to drive with a clutch.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't do it, so Mom and Dad had to go somewhere on a visit, and I said, we'll come back and you'll know how to drive.
I see where we're going here.
He taught himself how to drive.
Yeah.
So
he had to.
Yeah. I mean, he would do it with his, he just would get really...
Well, again, do you save your kid from the anxiety that you're having? I had an older brother that did some of this for me, particularly as, my parents got divorced when I was pretty young. And I'll never forget the way that I learned that I could go off of a high dive at the pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I didn't get pushed. But the nudge, what Neil asked me if I got pushed. I said no. Just go up and take a look. And I believed my brother. I'm like, oh, okay. I just have to take a look. Okay, great. So we climbed up the big freaking intimidating, high dive, and I'm way up in the air, and I get up on the high dive, and I'm like, I mean, that's scary as hell. It's wide open, And I looked, and I think I took 2 steps out with the railings that were on there before I got to the part without the railings. And my brother's like, no, we're not going down. I'm like, what do you mean we're not going down? He's like, no, we're not going down. He wouldn't move. And he just stood there. And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, I just got duped. But I'm so glad. I was so mad at him. And I was so intimidated and anxious, like terrified. I'm talking. Can you look at your child who is terrified in a situation and not save them? That's hard to do for mama. Yeah. It's hard to do for dads with their little daughters. It's hard to do with dads with their kids. Yeah. But I jumped off. And I'm glad that my brother did me that way, although that seemed really, really cruel. It wasn't cruel, John. So I think that it's interesting. The love and logic it has a logical process, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has a logical thing that we're learning from through really, really tough situations. Neil, did you have more of a thought?
No, but I'm also very disappointed because if you told me Victoria wasn't going to be here, I think I could have got my wife on this show.
Oh, really?
I think, honestly, with her background, and because she has her birth kindergarten education, she did a lot of preschool stuff. And
she would have been good.
Oh, it would have been an interesting conversation, and I think she actually would have been up for it, which I've been trying to get her on the show just to get you and her to go at it.
Wow.
Some of your discussions. So I'm really disappointed. I'm like, man, I wish I knew.
Let's add her on the month in review, Neil.
Okay. What would be the how would they go?
He said, "We'll see, Alicia." Just so you know.
No, there's a lot of sometimes the way that he describes love and logic. We've talked about this before. It doesn't make sense to the way he describes it. But as we dive into this and you look at the stuff that's in there, it actually goes very along with a lot of the way that we raised our kids. And so, actually, in this case, you would probably get the way you're discussing it. Will actually get a lot of agreement with someone who basically started her education career in these types of type of information.
But previously,
no, I told previously, and I told you this before. The way you describe it, it's like, yeah, let your kid do whatever you want, and I'll go fix it behind you. It's like that doesn't sound right. That sounds like enablement.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, and that's where people struggle. But I wanted to get back to before we run out of time because. Neil, you were making me think about this, and it's unfortunate. I mean, I guess the theme today, this time, we do redo the content, but the theme today is different. It's almost like contemporary aspects. We should have that as a subtitle, right? What are some contemporary aspects of today's life where society is telling the parent what to do? Because honestly, there's a lot of fear of that judgment, and I feel like parents are taught. In this age of anxiety that we live in, for reasons I think relate a lot to the age of information that we live in, that creates a tremendous amount of fear and worry. So, you're taught by society that you need to be fearful for your children and protect them, which is flying in the face of everything that we're talking about today, protecting them. Isn't that a primary job of a parent, to protect their kid? That's what society kind of teaches.
No, but we want to teach our kids to be resilient.
Yes.
To be able to be flexible, to be able to have agency,
to problem
be able
solve,
to grow. Because I'm going to give an illustration. I use this all the time.
Awesome.
It's with my kids, with some of my clients and that sort of thing. Is I had a pet chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was on the farm. A cow had stepped on it, and it was alive. I mean, it was able to survive and do that, but its leg was really gone and couldn't be set. And so I fed it for a long, long time, and it just turned into this big blob. It It didn't learn how to be with the other chicks or anything like that. And it was not having, I took care of everything for it.
Okay.
And it grew
Yeah.
up and it was helpless.
Oh,
It
wow.
wasn't, yeah. And the poor chicken had to die.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Are you serious?
Yeah, serious.
Poor chicken.
Yeah.
But you didn't teach it how to survive.
I didn't teach it how to survive. I took care of it, all its needs.
Yeah.
And
Oh, man.
yeah.
Oh, man.
So,
Yeah, that's sad. And I think that, there are a lot of kids out there that are kind of, that are like that chicken, John. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's a little dramatic of an outcome, but
they're helpless.
they're helpless.
Yeah.
They haven't learned.
Right.
They haven't learned to think. Haven't learned to problem solve. Haven't learned to relate. Haven't learned to think about this from the other person's
maybe
perspective.
not learn how to have empathy or compassion.
How to empathize.
Yeah.
How to have compassion for somebody else, yeah. If I take little Johnny's milk money, then Johnny won't have, any money for lunch, and that bothers me. You have to learn that.
Right.
That's not natural, because I want the milk money for me. I want to buy
Right.
candy.
Yeah.
So this teaches a little bit of, what do we want to call it psychologically? It teaches a little bit of the super ego to come into the picture, right?
Right.
Anyway, thought I'd throw a little
Freudian
psychological term in there.
So we're getting a little Freudian.
So I had to, man.
Freud.
This is what
He wasn't all wrong.
he wasn't all wrong. Exactly. So, we talked about some of these things that we're really trying to do. I mean, we're trying to really get into the development of the child. How do you allow your child to develop or create these scenarios in which they will learn from in their development? I really want to focus on the back end of that line of logic because I find people struggle a lot with it, John. Johnny, you could do anything that you want to do as long as it doesn't cause a problem for somebody else. I see that there's a problem there that has been created, so you better fix the problem. You need to work through that. Oh, little Johnny, I see that you haven't figured out, the solution to that problem that's been created. Don't worry about it. No problem. I'll take care of the problem. So now I'm in the situation where I have to create a consequence for this kid so that he can learn. He can't just do what he wants to do.
Right.
How do we create those consequences without creating power struggles and without protecting the kids so that they don't have any pain or skin in the game? That becomes complicated.
Okay. So again,
that becomes hard.
Right. ABC, activating behavior, consequence. It's almost like CBT on one level.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Okay. Well, you said that there's the action where you're going to do something.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't think of the consequences. And so you behave a certain way. And then you behave that certain way, the consequence is negative. So ABC is, okay, you add this extra thought, and that is, let me keep in mind. And it gives agency to the kid saying, you can make a decision not to do something. And so you say, I don't like this consequence because it was a bad consequence before. I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just adding that little.
I love that.
Okay.
You've explained that really well. Let me put some meat on that bone. Right. If a little kid is failing his spelling test because he doesn't sit down from 4 o'clock to 4:30 doing his homework and studying for the test, so don't worry about it, little Johnny. The problem that you're causing, us for your poor grade, because there's a problem in that we're receiving calls from teachers and it takes us away from work because they're calling us about your lack of performance and behavior with the spelling test. That's, sometimes you have to stretch it and work it, but that is a problem for me.
Right.
You're not getting the grade, and so that's a problem because your teachers are on me for you. So next week, a whole week later, the kid's been wondering what's going to happen. Because, Johnny, you haven't fixed the problem, but I'm going to fix the problem. Don't worry about it. And then what happens is, or maybe the next day at 4 o'clock, you and your wife go and say, hey, Johnny, we're going to go get some ice cream and we're going to have fun at the park for a little while, but you're going to need to study and you didn't get that stuff done. So unfortunately, you're not able to come. And we really hate that. This is compassionate now. This is not being mean. But then you go and you have yourself a Sunday peanut butter parfait, and you hang out at the park, and you come home, and you're finishing the parfait in the driveway, and a little kid is looking out at the, I mean, you just said, you can see John's face right now on the YouTube, right? It sucks.
Yeah.
But the little kid is tormented a little bit. Like, I didn't get the peanut butter parfait. Well, no, because you were supposed to be studying at 4 to 4:30, and you came in the background as the parent and created a situation that taught him if you were doing the work that you needed to do.
This is where I was having a little trouble with.
You could have been with us.
Yeah, so there's an intentionality in the parent. And
Yes.
So it's not winging it.
Yes.
And so that would be the logic aspect of
A
it.
very purposeful and intentionality on creating a scenario that, because the kid created a problem and because the kid didn't figure out what the solution was, the parent has to create that solution. And that's really where people struggle to get creative, to figure out, like, well, what am I going to do with this one?
The art of this, it has to be age appropriate. So
Yes.
in other words, the kid has to have some concrete thinking ability to
Well, it's
do
on
this.
developmental levels. of course.
Developmental,
Yeah. The way you do this with a second grader is very different than the way that you do that with the 15-year-old. But the concepts brilliantly are always the same.
Yeah.
The big picture philosophy is what we're operational with. And that's why I love all this stuff with Love and Logic. I just think it's so much brilliance. I wish, like you said, I would have found it in 1977 when my parents were parenting me, but more so, I wish I would have found it in 1995 when I was parenting my kids, because I didn't.
Same here.
Well, I should say 2001, my oldest was born. What am I talking about? But, still, I didn't until they were.
You were parenting yourself in 95.
Yeah, I was trying.
Trying.
I was in college, John. The safety nets were gone. Yes, it was all on me. Did we do a good job of giving some of the philosophy, to give some of the picture of what we're looking for and how we're trying to build
I think
a
I
relationship?
understand it better now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a powerful, powerful tool.
I liked your concrete examples.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Okay.
And you as well, with what we did naturally with the little popes, the little pope girls.
Yeah, they were. One was easy and one was not, and the boy was a boy.
Neither of mine were easy boys, I tell you. I have a nickname for them that I shall not say here. Although one of them is losing that nickname. All right, closing thoughts, comments, questions. Let's get out of here today. Any thoughts you think that we didn't cover, Neil or John? That
No, I really
did?
like this. I really did.
Okay,
So
awesome. Well, listen. Go ahead, Neil.
I think the only thing I want to close with is your job as a parent is not to protect your child, is to prepare your child.
I love that.
I wanted to say that
That's
because
couldn't do better.
yeah, John started. I'm like, I want to concise it, but yeah, I think that's the important part. Is your job is not to protect your kid; it's prepare your kids. It's better for them. It's better for society. It's better for you in the long run. Your job is to prepare, not protect.
Okay.
That is a mic drop. Take care, guys. Have a great week. Neil, thanks for summing us up that way.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Episode 300 celebration of Through a Therapist's Eyes.